And now for something completely different.
Forget everything you've been told by others before. Get ready for the real deal, the full story, real talk about money, markets, life. Now, it's The Real Investment Show, presented by RIA Advisors.
Good morning. Are we on? Is this thing on? Welcome to Financial Fitness Friday. I'm Rich Rosso, CFP, here with Danny Ratliff, CFP. I'm Danny, I'm stuck it's dark in here. I'm stuck. I think this is Biden's garage and it's locked.
I'm going back to bed. Man.
I am in real form
night,
today.
man.
I'm going to tell you all that. But we welcome you to our show this morning. And big day for bank earnings, Danny. JP Morgan just reported revenues of $34.5 billion, beats by $270 million. Bank of America reported this morning. Actually, they reported fairly well, but some of the stocks are down in the pre-market. But it's a big day for bank earnings today.
Well, listen, when you're getting so much yield, you're not paying it out to anybody. I mean, I think that you're going to start looking a lot better. Your margins improve significantly. I mean, look at all these firms that are still paying almost zero on interest rates.
Absolutely.
And we know what they're getting. And there's are a few that are actually paying it out to their customers. I think that in the long run, they're going to benefit from it because people will remember this, at least you hope.
I don't know. I don't understand the status quo of why people are keeping their cash in these brick and mortar banks that pay 0.4% when I have all these options. If I'm a saver, I'm a kid in a candy store right now, right? And I have all these options to save. I have online banks, I think, like Synchrony and Marcus paying over 3.5, close to 3.25.
Some are 4, Rich.
Yeah, some are in 4, right? Talked to a client yesterday who has an account with an online bank paying 4. So, and obviously I can get 3 to 6 month treasuries in excess of 4.5%. So, it's status quo, Danny. People don't move. Even if it's in their own best interest, they don't want to make a change. Isn't that the same with money? Like if I'm doing the same things over and over again, and we're going to talk a little bit about a SoFi survey that investors share their biggest 2020 regrets and 2023 goals. But I just noticed there's so much inertia when it comes to financial matters. And we're going to talk a little bit about the estate planning side. And yesterday we had such a great lunch and learn with Chris Masters over at Doreen Mayu, one of the best CPA firms out there. And we talked about family limited partnerships, but we talked about estate plans in general, didn't we?
We did. And I think that this is any of these types of, when you get into a discussion about family limited partnerships, any type of documentation that's going to document your mortality, it's difficult. Nobody wants to typically discuss these types of arrangements. But how important is it? And we talked about how often many people they forego it because they don't want to spend the money. They don't want to talk about the end of life. But yet, here we are, and you and I deal with this on a day-to-day basis on how important it is to protect and grow, but yet we fail so many times to protect it at the end of life. And not only is it just a monetary issue, but I mean, think about the strains that it puts on families.
It does. And I brought up one comment yesterday, which I absolutely believe in. I actually feel comforted putting together or knowing an estate plan because in a way that makes you immortal. It passes on these good decisions to your children and your family. I had a dear client. He was on the news here for generations. He taught reporters how to do their job. And before he retired, he put together his entire estate plan from where he was going to be buried to his eulogy and all that. And then ironically, we prepared for his retirement. What such a wonderful guy. And the next day, after we did his financial plan, Danny, we said, you're good to go. He buys this motorcycle, right? He gets it transported across country.
He was free.
Right? He's going to do all these things. He finds out he's got pancreatic cancer and doesn't have long to live. So he never really enjoyed his retirement. But what he did do before that was he put together his wonderful estate plan for his nephew, who was with one of our clients today, Danny. and his nephew's children. And to this day, when I talk to his nephew, wonderful, wonderful guy, and we talk about his uncle a lot, and he says, you know, what my uncle did was indispensable. And in other words, he still lives. He's still alive in these memories. He would have been alive in the memories, too, if he didn't have a good estate plan. But because that he did, there's such warm words. And listen, at the end, all we are stories. That's it. You can choose your story with an estate plan, but you choose it. And you don't let the legal documents choose for you, right? If I want to give my G.I. Joe collection to Danny and Brent wants it, I should have a conversation with them now while I'm here and not let my estate planning documentation do that. I have still worked with families. Their sisters and brothers are not talking to each other because of things that you would think sound really minute, because it has to do with stuff. And what good is stuff? But this stuff has memories, right? So someone gets the china and someone else doesn't. Someone gets a light fixture and someone else doesn't. These things create crazy rifts in families, Danny, for long term.
So often, I mean, and we talk about not just while you're going through it, but I know many people that they don't talk to their siblings any longer. They don't talk to other family members because of the strain that it puts on these relationships. And so if you can go ahead and get ahead of this and start, making sure, we talk about how important money is, right? All these people talk, and we talked about this the other day, is that money, especially for me and for a lot of people, it is essentially, it's a means to do the things that are important.
Absolutely.
So either to help people, for security, for whatever it is that may be, but it should be more on that qualitative side and not just the quantitative. And so we talk about this frequently here at RIA. And that's why we believe it's so important to get these things done, because, man, the rifts that this causes by not having these things done and accomplished is astronomical. And even people who have accomplished doing a simple will, doing some of the things that we believe are so necessary. But man, what if you haven't done it in 20 years? And what if laws have changed, or people have passed, or your feelings towards certain things have changed? Or what if, your niece or nephew or your child who was once you thought was going to be of sound mind isn't any longer, and now they have a windfall? I mean, there's just so many small things that you need to think about and keep in mind when we're talking about executing documents. But it takes a lot of hard work up front. Once you get it done, though, I think, like you mentioned, it's a sigh of relief.
It is. I think the documentation is actually easier than the conversations that you need to have while you're alive, while you're viable, while you have the mental faculties to do so. Having these conversations as far as you have siblings and one's, or you have children and one's really good with money and one isn't, and you have to help that child. Listen, I love you, but you're not going to get an inheritance in the same way as your brother or your sister. It's going to be doled out to you over time because you suck with money. Okay? You're going to have to help your kids understand. Okay?
Or you want to create that true legacy and make sure that it goes on for generations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's where there is an immortality and positive words around a good estate plan. We're going to continue this conversation when we get back here on Financial Fitness Friday. Stay tuned.
Get daily investment news you can use, delivered at the speed of the internet at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Housekeeping!
Getting your financial house in order for the new year need not be a tedious task. Our next Candid Coffee will get you ready for the fiscal roller coaster 2023 promises to be, with financial tips and talk. Saturday, January 28th with Richard Rosso and Danny Ratliff. Register now at realinvestmentadvice.com. The Financial Housekeeping Candid Coffee with Ratliff and Rosso. Register today at realinvestmentadvice.com. realinvestmentadvice.com.
Hi, Lance Roberts here. If you're like most people, your 401k plan represents the bulk of your retirement assets. And unfortunately for many, managing your 401k plan can be difficult. There's so many choices, so many things to consider. With just a quick email, a couple of questions, you can put RIA advisors to work for you managing your 401k plan. Get started right now at the website, realinvestmentadvice.com, or simply call our toll-free number, 855-RIA-PLAN, or again, simply online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Health and financial security touches everyone within your organization. Offering benefits for all doesn't need to be complicated. Hi, I'm Tom Allen, Senior Benefits Consultant at RIA Advisors. RIA Benefits provides independent expertise to find solutions that speak to the mission of your business, the culture you want to establish, and the budget you are able to work within. Book a free consultation with me at realinvestmentadvice.com/retirement, and we'll find a solution that takes care of your most important asset, your people. realinvestmentadvice.com/retirement, realinvestmentadvice.com.
And now, another page from the Real Investment Advisors Investing Manifesto. Bulls win in bull markets. Bears win in bear markets. Eagles soar above and take advantage of opportunity. Let us help you soar as you reach your financial goals with RIA Advisors. Neither bull nor bear. RIA Advisors, 281-501-1791 or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Real Investment Show.
I think I'm going to come back as a yolk stealer. I'm going to be a yolk stealer. Not bad yolks, but good yolks. Egg yolks. Eggs are up 60% in price over last year. I'm gonna start selling yolks on the black market. I'll do the yolks. Brent, you do the whites.
Okay.
And we'll give Danny the shells. I don't know what he's going to do with those.
Well, we make fertilizer out of it.
Compost.
Compost, yes.
I know inflation is 6.5%. That's the laughable, the LPI, the laughable price index, because when you go to the today's theme
we need
is
to trademark that.
Watch with the what's today's financial garage? What are we talking about?
What's
documents in the
your
financial garage.
Financial garage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we're finding that we're also keeping client records in my garage next to my Pinto, but it's locked. No, actually, they're in Danny's garage next to the Mustang, and they're locked. No, we don't keep any client records in garages. Sorry, we don't do that. But it does show you, though, that documents get unwieldy for everybody. And we're going to be doing a financial housekeeping candid coffee on Saturday, January 28th at 8 a.m. So we want to give you some really practical tips to get your financial house in order. We also want to know your tips. We want to know what you do. How do you organize things financially, whether it's your estate plan, whether it's your emergency contact, your account numbers. Obviously, we have all these passwords, right? And we have Apple Music and Amazon, and there's a digital footprint that you leave behind. Are you doing anything about that? So interesting, we want to hear from you as well about what you do every year for financial housekeeping. But the most important financial housekeeping you're going to do is your estate plan. So first of all, I was really devastated about Jeff Beck dying, but I sort of expected him being close to 80. But then Lisa Marie Presley dies, and I don't know. We're not far apart in age, and I sort of felt that. I just remember as I was growing up, she was growing up, and I don't know. And I've always been a big Elvis fan, and it sort of hit me. And I just wondered, because we talked about on this conference call about Aretha Franklin's horrendous estate plan. I just wonder if she has an estate plan.
You hope so. And you think that, especially people with access to so many different resources.
Yeah.
You would hope that somebody would guide them along the way. But unfortunately, I think that they've probably had so much guidance and bad guidance sometimes that people like this are maybe even more prone to not do something because they've been burned.
Could be. In my gut, I don't know why. We're going to find out because as advisors, we're like vultures. We're morbid. We always want to know. Like, I'll give you an idea. Like Aretha Franklin, we talked about this with Chris Mayhew yesterday. She had...
But Doran Mayhew, Chris Masters.
Chris Masters from... Sorry. I'm so confused today. So...
Take a sip of coffee.
She had...
Okay.
Well, first of all, Aretha Franklin passed away from pancreatic cancer, right? And she was the queen of soul. I mean, Aretha Franklin had an incredible body of work, but she had 3 different handwritten wills. And so they found these wills, and they're from back in 2010. And then they went and they found more wills handwritten from 2014. The kids and the brothers, and it created this whole fight. And you can't remember, you think about someone with the estate of Aretha Franklin. How do you not have your stuff in order? You're going to have a legacy going forward, and all these children and siblings. But regardless, even if the one thing that equalizes the rich and famous with the rest of us schlubs is, first of all, we all wind up in the same place, right? Mortality is mortality, all right?
And you can't take any of this stuff with you.
Yeah. You go to a graveyard and everybody's the same. But this hesitancy to plan for your estate. And I think the one way you get started, Danny, is the basics, right? You want to take it slow. You want to have your trust. You want to have your medical directives, right? Frankly, my will's like 7 years old. I need to update it. I need to update my power of attorneys, my HIPAA, who's the executor. I've even been thinking about, okay, what do I want? Do I want to be cremated? Do I want to be buried? In other words, someone is going to make these decisions for you, or you're going to make them.
If you get cremated, I'm going to talk to Haley. We're going to be sprinkling your ashes next to Janet Yellen.
Can you do it outside her house?
I'm thinking she's going to go before you, bud.
Oh, you never know. These people.
That's true.
I'm staying quiet over here.
I'm going to come back to haunt her with my voice of her.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, I've been visited by 3 ghosts, and they all sound like me. So it's really, but again, you would have to make do you want your children, Danny, or your wife, say you want Michelle, do you want her, even though she would make the best decision, do you really want her to have that responsibility if you are on life support? Don't you want to, the ultimate gift I think you give to your loved ones is you've made this decision. They're carrying out this decision.
Absolutely.
Make it as easy and as stress-free for those who are behind. So I look at creating the estate plan and trusts and things that you need to do to preserve your family wealth going forward for your children and your grandchildren, right? To this immortality, and actually feels good that you are doing the right things. That doesn't mean you're going to die tomorrow. I had someone tell me, if I do an estate plan, I put a bad juju out there. And that means I'm going to die soon. And that is I've heard, you and I, Danny, we've heard the craziest reasons why people procrastinate from making financial decisions, or maybe taking Social Security early, or whatever it is. But this one took the cake. Like, I had to sit there for a bit.
Yeah, but if you're putting out that bad juju, whatever, and you do pass,
you got everything
the
together.
day after, you're done.
What do you
The
care?
net result is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you care? As long as you have a wonderful wife, you have 2 grown children and grandchildren, don't you want to make sure that everything is in place for them because you love them, right? I think that's the most selfish thing you can do, is not have an estate plan.
Well, it is selfish because you're not worried about them. You're worried about you.
Exactly.
There's no other way. And you mentioned something earlier, right? So many times, let's say you do the estate plan, you get all these things in motion. Mm-hmm. But how many times, you mentioned 2 things I think that are important. One, actually having a plan.
Right.
And taking this off, because you think if you pass, your loved ones, it's emotional. They don't feel great about anything. And now you want to burden them with making decisions on, are you going to be buried or cremated? Where are we going to put you? What song did Rich love? Is it Aretha Franklin or is it Elvis Presley? Johnny Cash. Which
Farron
one?
Young. I don't know.
So, but decisions that nobody really wants to make.
Right.
But not only that, what about all the online?
Yeah.
That path that you have to go down.
That's a
Where
footprint.
did Rich keep money?
Right.
Wait, he used multiple places. He was here, and here. Oh, I can't get online. I don't even know what's there. Are the beneficiaries correct? And then you talk about the headache of going and tracking these places down, especially now. Now, this is where we talked about brick and mortar. At least sometimes you can walk in. I'm not sure it's much better sometimes. But, some of these other places, it's a little bit harder to get in front of these people when you you can't walk in the door.
And to have your estate plan together, and not only that, but gathering the right people together to discuss it, bringing it all out in the open, or using a financial advisor or a trusted partner to facilitate the conversation. Like I was thinking yesterday, Chris Masters was talking about, we were talking about family limited partnerships, which are not for everybody, but it's pretty common in Texas. I have a ranch, or you have a family business and you want to pass it on and you want to protect it from creditors, and yet you still want control as general partners. This is a very fascinating mechanism that you put in place to save estate tax, because it locks in values of appreciated assets, and it creates this estate planning savings. But also, if you owe estate taxes, think about, if you didn't have this in place, how would you come up with estate taxes? He had an example, Chris, of a family that had $70 million, and by doing a family limited partnership, they saved roughly $33 million in estate taxes. Imagine if you had to come up with that, and you had this beloved family ranch in your household for in your family for generations. Yeah. Hey, listen, I've been having conversations about estate planning using like Yellowstone.
Well,
because listen, you've been watching that family lineage. You've been watching like 1883 and 1923, and they need to do a 1970, like with John Dutton, right? Like his upbringing, right?
Is it still there? Yeah. Well, I guess it's still there because of Yellowstone.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's still there. But I'm saying is like,
what happened in between?
You got to think about you passing this legacy of family and ranches and all this. I mean, you don't have that kind of wealth, but you do have something to pass on. I'm not trying to do anything to get anybody to do a darn estate plan, Danny. I mean, I'm reaching. I'm reaching. It's just so hesitant. It's just like how people don't have life insurance. I see all the time. I'm on Facebook and I see this young family, and God forbid the dad dies or the mom dies, and they have a GoFundMe, and they have young children. They have no life insurance. I mean, these are the DNA of financial decisions, right? These are the basics. When you start having children, I have people I work with that have young children. They have yet to name guardians.
Ooh.
I mean, stuff like that. And I know this is a tough conversation with your family, right? With your husband and your wife. Like, oh, no, not your crazy sister, Mildred.
Well, and with your family, right? Because it may not be what, you may argue over who it is, and it may not be family.
Right. I mean, again, a lot of decisions. Hey, we get back, we're going to talk about what are some of the regrets investors have had for 2022, and what is their 2023 goals? When we return here on Financial Fitness Friday. Stay tuned.
The Real Investment Advice blog. It's required reading for the informed investor. Catch it today at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Housekeeping!
Getting your financial house in order for the new year need not be a tedious task. Our next Candid Coffee will get you ready for the fiscal roller coaster 2023 promises to be, with financial tips and talk. Saturday, January 28th with Richard Rosso and Danny Ratliff. Register now at realinvestmentadvice.com. The Financial Housekeeping Candid Coffee with Ratliff and Rosso. Register today at realinvestmentadvice.com. realinvestmentadvice.com.
Health and financial security touches everyone within your organization. Offering benefits for all doesn't need to be complicated. Hi, I'm Tom Allen, Senior Benefits Consultant at RIA Advisors. RIA Benefits provides independent expertise to find solutions that speak to the mission of your business, the culture you want to establish, and the budget you are able to work within. Book a free consultation with me at realinvestmentadvice.com/retirement, and we'll find a solution that takes care of your most important asset, your people. realinvestmentadvice.com/retirement, realinvestmentadvice.com.
And now, another page from the Real Investment Advisors Investing Manifesto. A passive investment portfolio requires active risk management. It's not a choice, it's necessity. Diversification doesn't protect against risk of loss. Let us actively help you reach your financial goals with RIA Advisors. Neither bull nor bear. RIA Advisors, 281-501-1791 or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Can't catch the whole show now? Listen to our podcast later at realinvestmentadvice.com.
So my kids know that I do radio, but they don't listen to it or anything. This guy sees me in the airport. So now my kids think, it's like, oh my gosh, my dad's really
Famous.
He's famous, right? Yeah, it's awesome. He's famous.
The Real Investment Show podcast.
So we get in the car and we find a Red Robin. It's packed. We've been there maybe 5 minutes. He comes over to me. He's like, come on, I got you. Puts us in a private room at Red Robin.
You know you've made it when you're an A-lister at
Red Robin. Exactly.
At realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Real Investment Show YouTube channel has all our videos ready for your easy access. Now with the new and improved Before the Bell reports, Candid Coffee, and Lunch and Learn replays, plus each day's radio shows like Technically Speaking Tuesday, Financial Fitness Friday, and the latest analysis from Lance Roberts and Michael Leibowitz. Subscribe and bookmark our YouTube channel for The Real Investment Show, or just click on the show links at realinvestmentadvice.com. realinvestmentadvice.com.
Real Investment Show podcasts are now available from Stitcher Smart Radio at Stitcher.com.
Hi, Lance Roberts here. If you're like most people, your 401k plan represents the bulk of your retirement assets, and unfortunately for many, managing your 401k plan can be difficult. There's so many choices, so many things to consider. With just a quick email, a couple of questions, you can put RIA Advisors to work for you managing your 401k plan. It's a quick and easy application. Just simply click Ask a Question at realinvestmentadvice.com or give us a call at 855-RIA-PLAN. That's realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Financial Housekeeping Candid Coffee with Ratliff and Rosso will get you ready for the fiscal roller coaster 2023 promises to be, with financial tips and talk. Saturday, January 28th. Register now at realinvestmentadvice.com. realinvestmentadvice.com.
You're listening to The Real Investment Show.
I never wish bad things on anybody. But, you know, you got to wonder if Prince Harry is next, because the family might just take him out with that book and everything else. How that book is a bestseller is beyond me. I cannot believe how much we are so involved in the royal family and this train wreck. Listen, he's capitalizing on it. I get the capitalism part of it, but who the heck wants to read that book?
Are there pictures?
Even if there are pictures, I just
that's selling. I mean, that just shows you the smut that people are.
To spend money on that book and to waste my valuable time is beyond me. But
yeah,
woof, my God, he doesn't want any kind of recognition or publicity. Hello,
right? Not in it for the money either.
Yeah, no, I don't need that.
Hey, so good banter back and forth on the YouTube channel. So if you haven't
besides having a Ford Pinto and a Chevy Vega, and it's like a used car. I like Al Bundy's Dodge. That was the best one, because Al Bundy had a great Dodge. But TK had a great
well, that's right. But go to the Real Investment Advice. Check that out. Go subscribe.
The Real Investment Show.
The Real Investment Show.
There you go. That's the channel.
Get it right, Danny.
Hey, too many things going on, right? But good banter, right? And so a lot of good information. So TK asked, where do you start, right? And so for all you others out there, we are not attorneys. We do not
we don't even
give
play them on
legal
the radio.
advice. We're just telling you about what we see, what we encounter with clients, things that we deal with on a regular basis. So, if you have a specific question, consult your attorney, your CPA, your advisor. But we can certainly help and point you in the right direction. So there's so many different avenues and so many different ways to go about starting that plan.
Before you do that, you got to sit down.
Yep.
Before you even meet with an attorney, financial advisor, you got to go do some soul searching. Okay? You got to think about, okay, who would want this? Hey, I've got this Matchbox car collection, or I've got, would somebody want this? Or is there a check? In other words, you got to sit down, especially with your spouse, and go through the process of the names and the legacies. And hey, Billy is terrible with money, but Johnny's great, and as this money goes passed on, how does that work? And does your wife or your husband want to be a trustee? You got to go into the basics before you get the estate plan first, right? Even when it comes to wills, or what do you want if you are on life support? Do you even know the answer to that question?
No, most people don't, I don't think.
Right. I mean, I know what I would want, but some people may not know, and they have to just do some reflection on their own about what they would want. And then you can go ahead and start slow. It's just like with investing, and we say pay yourself first. Go slow, get your basics done, get your trust done, get your power of attorneys done, right? What if you couldn't sign a check, or your HIPAA release? People don't realize, like, if you're in the hospital and a doctor or nurse, anybody at the hospital needs to speak to somebody to get your records, and you can't do it because of HIPAA, someone's going to have to do that for you, right? And these are things you have to think about and put in place. These documents are not that difficult. You can go to your estate planner. You can go to your trusted attorney. Heck, we have trust and will at RIA Advisors if you just want to do it yourself, or at least go through that exploratory process of how that works. Because what I like about trust and will, Danny, is if you even just start the process, it starts to get you thinking about who would be this, who would do this for you. So
kind of takes you down a path.
It takes you down a path that gets you thinking. So I think you got to sit down, have some conversations before anything. Don't you think so, Brian?
Is there a common checklist for people who are just starting out, who want to sit down at the kitchen table and go through this with your spouse? Is there a checklist that kind of prompts you to come up with these answers?
Yeah, there's tons of checklists out there. I mean, and really it's the basic stuff that you just start working down. But, like Rich said, you need to start thinking about what are your answers prior to just jumping in. I see a lot of people go straight to the attorney, and the attorney's just doing an exploratory conversation like, hey, have you thought about who's going to be the guardian of your children? Who's going to be your executor? Who's going to be your trustee? If all these small things that typically people don't think about prior to going in. And so sometimes it can be a waste of all of your time. I mean, it's great to kind of get the conversation started, but if you have these ducks in a row already, you're going to be way ahead of the game.
Well, and if you're paying the guy by the hour, you'll save some money having these things already discussed and decided upon.
Exactly. And I have one client that started with one conversation with his wife, and he said to her, it's Monday. And he goes, I'm gone tomorrow. What do you do? And she had no idea. Mm-hmm. In other words, who does she call? Who are our financial people? Who is our attorney?
Deer in the headlights.
Deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
So you've got to get that deer in the headlights thing done while you're alive.
Correct.
The document part, I will tell you, I think is the simple part, even though people think that's the onerous part. It's the discovery of who you want and how you want things dispersed, and start getting involved in those relationships now.
Well,
if you have a spouse that's not talking to Danny, like one of your clients says, well, my spouse is not involved in this. I always say, well, listen, that's a poor excuse. That individual needs to know who I am and know who to call if, God forbid, something happened to you.
That's right.
So this discovery process is not easy, but it's very enlightening. So people have money dates. They go through their checking. They go through all this stuff. Well, go through some more. Take it to the next step. And I think that's how you first started.
I think so. But, the other step would be is that start having conversations. So you say, okay, I want this to go to Richard. I want this to go to Brent. But what if Brent doesn't really want this?
Right. Got to have that conversation now,
You gotta-
right?
but that's probably the really difficult part is like, hey, I'd love for you to have this. Is this something you even want? My grandmother did something really good when we were really little. Now, most of these were just material, small items. But when we were young, I've got 3 cousins, and she'd say, okay, is there anything in here you want? If I die, what do you want?
But that's a great question.
But she had these
Yeah.
little things like you'd put on a garage sale. They were like, red, blue, green, yellow. Everybody had a different color. And so you'd put it on the back of it.
You have color-coded garage sales?
Well, they did back in the day, yeah.
It's not a bad
I didn't
idea.
even think they had colors back in that day. I thought everything was black and white. There was a point I had to go to my mother. I'm like, I don't understand. Why is everything on the television black and white? And this is, what's going on?
It's your blood sugar.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a really horrendous child to deal with.
But you're right. My mom has done that. There's some little tchotchkes around the house, and she's told us, I've marked your initial in chalk on the underside of this box or whatever it is. And that's how my parents
know
So
what
what
happens-
if you don't want it? I mean, that's the other
Yeah.
kicker. I mean, then maybe somebody else does.
I can
and so
sell it to my
having those
brother.
conversations. Yeah, there you go.
You know, so when Brent doesn't want your Danny's NASCAR collection of collectible cars,
Yes.
I'll go to Tomball to like Cherry Hill Antiques, and it'll be there.
There you go.
Yeah.
All the stuff when you go to the antique stores, I'm like, I go with Amy, I go, this is what Haley would be doing with my stuff. See all this crap here? Hey, she'd be selling it. She'll be unloading it on eBay, Etsy.
Well, it's like the home.
yeah.
Everybody says, well, the best thing you can do is give your home to them because then you create these memories that they've had for their life. And, well, let me tell you.
Give your house to your kids?
Yeah, listen.
Isn't that not a liability?
Well, it's not necessarily a liability. What it is that most kids don't want it.
Right.
They don't
Right,
want
that's
your
the
house.
liability. Unless I tell everybody, listen, unless it's on a river, a lake, the ocean, the mountains.
Yeah, if it's in
Your
Montana,
kids are getting rid
I
of
want
it, right?
the house, okay?
Or maybe it's a family ranch, but listen, most people don't have a family ranch.
Nobody
or
wants your house
something
in Spring, Texas.
that's been generational.
It's not the
We
Yellowstone.
love you, but yeah, we're not.
It's gone.
Kids don't want that.
They lower you down, and then that house has got a for sale sign on it.
Absolutely. What you're attached to, your children aren't. And I will tell you, you look at Gen Z, say those born in the late 90s and so the 20-somethings, they don't want your crap. They don't want crap in general. They don't want stuff. They're all about experiences, living smaller. Like, you don't know what means to them. Each generation, there's a different meaning to things. You know, baby boomers, yeah, maybe they wanted the China. My daughter may not want my Aurora Monster model collection or whatever I had as a kid, that some of the stuff I still have. She just doesn't have the same connection to that. It's not going to make me feel bad. It's just that, Dad, what am I going to do with this?
Well, and I think we placed a lot more sentimental value in those types of material things versus our kids now because, one, we didn't have nearly as much stuff.
Agree.
I mean, we
You
just
probably
didn't.
didn't.
I mean,
Your
you had to
generation
play with
probably.
something. You had to play with it, and you had to figure out how to be creative with it. That's what scares me is that there's so many. The kids can jump from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. That I think they lose a little bit of that ingenuity.
They do. They do. The best toy the best toy I ever had as a kid was a refrigerator box.
Oh, yeah.
When there was a refrigerator box out on the curb, holy moly, that was the best.
My first radio station was a washing machine box.
Oh, so you were doing your broadcasts.
I was the man in the box. True story.
That might still work.
Yeah.
So you had to use, to your point, Danny, we had to use our imagination many times. Even a lot of the toys that we had, whether it was G.I. Joe or there were a lot more stuff, doing stuff with your hands, arts and crafts and other. But right, you got to have, again, these conversations. So we're going to move on from the estate planning talk, but I think that's been dead and buried, and talk about moving forward here on Financial Fitness Friday when we return. Stay tuned.
Get daily investment news you can use, delivered at the speed of the internet at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Getting your financial house in order for the new year need not be a tedious task. Our next Candid Coffee will get you ready for the fiscal roller coaster 2023 promises to be, with financial tips and talk. Saturday, January 28th with Richard Rosso and Danny Ratliff. Register now at realinvestmentadvice.com. The Financial Housekeeping Candid Coffee with Ratliff and Rosso. Register today at realinvestmentadvice.com. realinvestmentadvice.com.
Hi, Lance Roberts here. If you're like most people, your 401k plan represents the bulk of your retirement assets, and unfortunately for many, managing your 401k plan can be difficult. There's so many choices, so many things to consider. With just a quick email, a couple of questions, you can put RIA advisors to work for you managing your 401k plan. Get started right now at the website, realinvestmentadvice.com, or simply call our toll-free number, 855-RIA-PLAN at realinvestmentadvice.com.
Health and financial security touches everyone within your organization. Offering benefits for all doesn't need to be complicated. Hi, I'm Tom Allen, Senior Benefits Consultant at RIA Advisors. RIA Benefits provides independent expertise to find solutions that speak to the mission of your business, the culture you want to establish, and the budget you are able to work within. Book a free consultation with me at realinvestmentadvice.com/retirement, and we'll find a solution that takes care of your most important asset, your people. realinvestmentadvice.com/retirement, realinvestmentadvice.com.
And now, another page from the Real Investment Advisors Investing Manifesto. Manage risk and volatility rather than trying to manage gains. You don't have to be right all the time. Long-term investing success is a 70% gain. Let us help you reach your financial goals with RIA Advisors. Neither bull nor bear. RIA Advisors, 281-501-1791 or online at realinvestmentadvice.com.
The Real Investment Show.
So 2020 wasn't a fun year for investing, right? Although I do think that, yeah, it was volatile, but I've seen more volatile times. But obviously rising interest rates, you had crypto collapsing, a lot of interesting things. So SoFi did a little bit of a study on reflection of how people invest, right? Inflation was a big issue, but here are some of the choices that investors that were polled regretted. They regretted not buying more crypto at lower prices. I'm like, I don't know why you're regretting that. Not buying more stock when the market started to decline. Well, there is something to, hey, do I want to buy low? And this is the only game in town where people don't want to buy low. Or not selling stock before the market started to decline. So these are people that felt, hey, I do have some financial regrets. 39% said despite inflation, they wanted to invest more, with Generation Z investors making up the biggest group within this segment. And I sort of like hearing that, because when I talk to Gen Z 20-somethings, they don't. Yes, you have a group that embraces investing, but they also feel like the Fed's going to bail them out. But a lot of them are very risk averse. They would rather have insurance or sure things versus the market. So it's nice to see that maybe the derail in markets haven't totally discouraged them overall. Some of them have made impulsive investment decisions because of market volatility. 31% of Gen Z who admitted to acting rationally. Hey, welcome to the course, right? Welcome to investing, where our primal brains absolutely take over. Don't you think so?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, look, this has been a trying year. I mean, and so far, it's interesting to watch the psychology of people, because in a year like last year where everything went down, right? Cash was king. And, historically, nobody's wanted to touch cash because it hasn't paid anything, right? And even you still hear the story, well, I tell you what, I mean, you're losing out because of inflation. Listen, cash is not a forever thing, but cash can certainly be good. I mean, we hold cash at different times and, overweight it in particular periods like this last year.
We have treasuries.
Yeah.
We have treasury bills.
Cash alternatives.
Alternatives.
Lots of options out there. But it's interesting the last week what it's done to investors, where beginning of the year, people are like, oh, man, 2023 is going to be rough. We've had 5-6 days of good markets?
We've had, and again, I think in January you get this fake out. We saw, remember last year, January, we were like, why is everybody so happy giddy in the face of the Fed raising rates? And frankly, the Fed's not done yet, by the way. Inflation came in, I think, at what, 6.5%?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, it's headed in the right direction, but what I don't think people are anticipating, and this is no yoke, prices are going to be sticky higher for a while. Okay, especially in the service industry. Okay, and that has to do with labor force participation. Where the heck did everybody go that wants to work? And keeping workers happy. There's going to be a stubbornness to this inflation that's going to keep rates higher for longer. So this market anticipating rates going lower seems silly to me. So yes, I think there's a lot of denial, but here's what they said for planning for 2023 in this survey. 21% said they plan to increase investments. 90% plan to conduct more research. Well, research is always good, and that has nothing to do with Reddit boards. I mean, maybe you want...
research has changed. The definition of that, what is that, Rich?
I don't know.
It used to be people actually going through fundamentals and looking at stock prices and the actual viability of companies versus...
Understanding. You know, maybe it should be more education versus research. Maybe that would have been a better question.
Yeah.
14% want to work with a financial advisor. 10% want to buy a new type of investment. And 9% plan to change their asset allocations in their portfolios. So... so that's, I mean, steps in the right direction. Respondents continue to be optimistic in this study. 45% of investors have cryptocurrency. 78% say they are cautiously optimistic in the crypto market will bounce back. Only 5% consider the market dead. You got to really look at your own situation and try to get your emotions out of it. Personally, my own gut is telling me, and the Magic 8 Ball sort of validates, more volatility this year, not less. But January to me, to your point, Danny, the way it's starting out, like this bitter nirvana is going to last. Listen, markets just don't do that. Okay, markets are there to confuse and fake out the most investors possible. So like for everybody who is dire on this market this year, there's one who isn't. And you have to look at your own personal goals. What kind of returns do you need to hit your goals? Is there anything wrong, Danny, with wanting to own crypto? Because I talk to a lot of advisors and like, oh, you're an idiot. And I approach it a little different. And I've always approached it different. Think of it like a speculative asset. What would be your advice to someone that says, hey, I would like to put some money into crypto?
I think the problem that most people make is that they want to put everything into crypto. And like any speculative investment, I would always advise only invest what you're willing to lose. And so, it's Vegas money. It's you go to Las Vegas, you have to understand, look around. It was not built because guys like you are walking in and out of there with tons of money. It was built because the house wins. And so when we talk about going to invest in speculative products or investments and types of different areas, we always want to be cautious, especially as the onset, right? And so I think where people get in trouble is the greed. You see, oh man, this is done really well.
No matter what, right?
And the issue is, historically, most investors do the opposite of what we should do.
Yep.
Most people aren't at the front end of it. We want to wait until it does really, really well. Then we're willing to go put a bunch of money into it. And the problem is, what are we doing then? We're buying high, hoping it continues to go higher. And look, in many instances it has, but I know that more times than not, it has not. And so, unfortunately, many people, we have this strategy, buy low and sell high, but you do the complete opposite because it doesn't feel good to buy low and it doesn't feel good to sell high.
It doesn't. It doesn't. And to your point, you have to look at anything speculative. Don't get seduced by all the stories out there because fear and greed span generations. That whole dude with the curly hair, what's his name? Samuel Jackson Freed, whatever his name is. Listen, that's a greed story. That is not a crypto story. Okay, that could have been widgets or tulips or whatever the hell. It didn't matter, right? We get sucked into stories, and it doesn't matter how smart we think we are because we're all primal when it comes to money. So I always tell people, listen, you want a wild horse? You can't ride this wild horse every day, right? It's going to be in this little corral and you're going to work with it. But you also know that you may never tame this horse, right? I want a small amount of money in this particular ride I'm going to have. I don't want to risk everything. Speculation is fine to a degree if you are willing to lose everything in it. It is a lottery ticket, and that's okay. But man, you should hear, like on Fox Business or CNBC, these crypto pundits, they fall, like I feel like I got a groin pull from how far they reach into calling crypto fundamental. They look at the fundamentals of crypto. What's
the intrinsic value behind it?
What is that? What is a what are the fundamentals of crypto? Shenanigans, as Nana would say. Shenanigans. You're a shenanigan. Okay? It's a risk that you take compared to buying a large cap stock that pays dividends. Still risky, different type. So it's okay. I don't mind people speculating. I'm all for it if you're willing to lose. Or say it does well for me, Danny. Say this speculation goes really, really well. I've had clients that have bought crypto when it first started coming out. And we talked about this crypto thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this now? Everything always emerges that I got to go, oh my gosh, another tulip's popping up. I mean, I don't have enough fertilizer or weed killer for this stuff, right? Okay, you want to do it. How much do you want to put into it? Okay. They come to me for approval. Oh, I want to put a couple of $1,000s. Okay, here's your net worth. Very small. Okay, great. Now we get to the point where this thing has become a tulip field. What has been great having conversations with people, Danny, about they're willing to trim them. But how many people, when crypto really rode, say they hit it and they were lucky, they mistake luck for intelligence, and they keep letting it ride, right? So what's the poor theory on that? Like, what shouldn't you be trimming that out, selling? That's what you want to do.
Well, of course you want to do that. Now, I think the big thing is that you look at really successful investors. They're not pushing all their chips to the center of the table. They're saying, okay, what am I willing to risk here? And you talk to many, many smart men, and they'll tell you, or women, and they'll tell you, hey, it's not always about the deals that I did, but it's also the investments I didn't make. Because that's what burns people, especially when they put too much in one area. So I think it's really important to understand what type of risk you're willing to take, what you're willing to leave on the table, what you're willing to pull off, what you're willing to lose. I mean, at the end of the day.
Absolutely. There's a point where speculation becomes very dangerous. Or if I hit it lucky, I know to take my chips off the table. That's taking your emotions out of the picture. And I think this year, you are going to have to keep your emotions in check. Yeah, January looks real smooth. It's sucking you in to the trap. Don't fall for it. And please get me out of Biden's garage this weekend. Open the door, Biden. Open the door. We'll see you next week, everybody. Lance back on Monday. We so appreciate you being here. Have a great weekend.